page 186. I offer thanks to you, ever living sovereign, that you have restored my soul to me in mercy. How great is your trust. What a wonderful thing is to start every morning reminding ourselves that each day is an opportunity, is a gift. Reminding ourselves that we live our lives with God's trust. We had the chance every day new. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday, today, this morning. We can to be the best version of ourselves. And as we acknowledge our own existence, we take a moment to look around and acknowledge the presence and the beauty of our community. As we enter this sanctuary, this beautiful building that holds all of us together, we recognize that we also hold this building, that our presence here gives life to this building and to our community. We're on page 188.
Yevamot
page 194, we take a moment to give some loving attention to our bodies. After recognizing our communal space, we recognize our personal space. I invite you to daven silently the blessing, the prayer for the well functioning of our bodies, and to think of your own body, to dedicate some loving attention to your body. As we recognize that our bodies and our souls are, to some extent, different entities, that our bodies belong to the world of what is temporary, while our souls are eternal. The enterprise of our lives is to keep them together, to acknowledge our bodies as the vessels, the sacred vessels of our existence. ברוך אתה אדוני, רופא כל בשר ומפליא לעשות. And as we turn our Siddurim to page 196 for the blessing for our souls, we recognize how similar the word soul, neshama, and breath, neshima, are in our tradition. I invite you to engage your entire body, to take a deep breath. We open the gates for what is eternal in our lives.
Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. 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 Elohai neshama shenatata bi Source of all creation, sovereign of all souls, praise are you, Adonai, in whose hand is every living soul and the breath of humankind. ברוך אתה אדוני אשר בידו נפש כל חי ורוח כל בשר איש. From page 198 for the blessings, for the daily miracles, for things that we sometimes take for granted in our routines. ברכות השחר on page 198. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has given the mind the ability to distinguish day from night.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who opens the eyes of the blind.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech
haolam, who frees the captive.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who lift up the fallen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who stretches the earth over the water.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who strengthens our steps.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who clothes the naked.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who gives strength to the weary.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who removes sleep from the eyes, slumber from the eyelids.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who have created all human beings equal.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me free.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me a Jew.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who girds Israel with strength.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, oter Israel v'tihifaram.
Amen.
Page 204, the blessing for the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher קידשנו במצוותיו, וציוונו לעסוק בדברי תורה. O Adonai, our God, let the words of Torah be sweet in our mouths, and the mouths of your people Israel, so that we, our descendants, and the descendants of all your people Israel may know you, by studying your Torah for its own sake. Blessed are you, Adonai, who teaches Torah to your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, המלמד תורה לעמו ישראל.
Amen. We continue on page 206 in English. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's parents, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all.
And on page 212, for the blessing for the Psukei de Simra.
Baruch Shamar v'haya haolam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Chaseh v'reshit, Baruch Omer v'oseh, Baruch Gozeh u'mekayem, Baruch merachem al haaretz, Baruch merachem al habriot, Baruch meshalem sachar tov lireav, Baruch Elahai v'kayam lanetzach, Baruch podeh u'ma'atzir, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo.
Life in the universe, one God, life of the universe, praise and glorious ruler. Your name is eternal.
Melech mehulal, batishbachot, Melech mehulal, batishbachot,
Baruch atah Adonai, Melech me'olam, batishbachot. We commence the Psukei de Simra, the songs of praise in Shabbat, with Psalm 92, Mizmor Shir Leyom HaShabbat, on page 214.
Tov lehodot l'Adonai, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, Olezamer,
ולשמח לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, באמונתך בלילות, באמונתך בלילות, טוב להודות לאדוני, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, באמונתך בלילות, באמונתך בלילות, טוב להודות לאדוני, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, באמונתך בלילות, באמונתך בלילות, טוב להודות לאדוני. And on top of page 215. אשרי יושבי ביתך, והללוך סלע.
אשרי יושבי ביתך, והללוך סלע.
אשרי יושבי ביתך, והללוך סלע. אשרי יושבי ביתך, והללוך סלע. אשרי יושבי ביתך, והללוך סלע. אשרי יושבי ביתך, והללוך סלע. אשרי יושבי ביתך, יהללו, עוד יהללו חסלה. תהילת לדוד, תרוממך אלוהי המלך, יברך שמך לעולם בהד.
בכל יום אברכך, בהללה שמך לעולם ועד.
גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, בגדולתו אין חקר.
דור לדור ישבח מעשיך, וגבורותיך יגידו.
על כבודותיך ודברי נפלאותיך עשיך.
ועזוז נורותיך יאמרו, וגדולתך ספרנה.
זכר רטובך יביאו, בצדקתך ירננו.
חנון ברחום אדוני, ערך אפיים וגדול חסד.
טוב אדוני לכל, ורחמיו על כל מעשיו.
יודוך אדוני כל מעשיך, וחסידיך יברכוך.
ועוד מלכותך יאמרו, וגבורתך ידברו.
להודיע לבני האדם גבורותיו, וכבוד הדר מלכותו.
מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור בדור.
סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
עיני כל אליך ישברו, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעתו.
פותח את ידיך, ומשביע לכל חי רצון.
צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, בחסיד בכל מעשיו.
קרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו, לכל אשר יקראו באמת.
רצוני רב יעשה, בית שבת המשמע ויושיעם.
שומע אדוני את כל אוהביו, ואת כל רשעים ישמיד.
תהילת אדוני ידבר פיhi, ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו, לעולם בהד.
ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם, הללויה.
We're on page 218 for Psalm 150.
Hallelujah, bekacha, hallelujah, bekiauzo, hallelujah. הללו, בגבורותיו, הללו, כרוב גבורו, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללו, הללויה, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללו, הללויה, הללו, ותקע שופר, הללו, ונבל כינור, הללו, וטוב ומחול, הללו, ומילים מעוגל, כל הנשמה בהלליה, הללו, הללויה, כל הנשמה בהלליה, הללו, הללויה, הללו, בצלצלי שמה, הללו, בצלצלי תרועה, הללו, בצלצלי שמה, הללו, בצלצלי תרועה, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללו, הללויה, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללו, הללויה.
נשמת כל חי, תברך את שמך, אדוני אלוהינו ברוח כל בשר תפארת ומנציח לך מלכנו תמיד. Both the first and the last, God of all creatures, Master of all generations, we praise in a multitude of praises, who guides the world with abundant loving kindness, and all creatures with mercy. Adonai neither slumbers nor sleeps, but awakens the sleeping, arouses those who slumber, gives speech to the mute. And God loosens the bonds of captives. God supports the falling and strengthens those who are bent over. You alone do we acknowledge. We're on page 220.
אילופינו מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה וידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים ורגלינו קלות כילות. אילופינו מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה וידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים ורגלינו קלות כילות. אין אנחנו מספיקים להודות לך ולברך את שמך מלכנו. אין אנחנו מספיקים להודות לך ולברך את שמך מלך מלכי המלכים, מלך מלכי המלכים, מלך מלכי המלכים. מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה וידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים ורגלינו קלות כילות. מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה וידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים ורגלינו קלות כילות. אל בית השומות עושיך הגדול וכבוד שמך, הגיבור לנצח ונורא ונורתך, המלך היושב על כיסא רם בנישא. We're on page 222. שוכן עד מרום וקדוש שמו וכתוב רננו צדיקים באדוני
לישרים נבע תהילה, בפי ישרים תתהלל, ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ולשון חסידים תתרומם, ובקרב קדושים תתקדש. ומקלות תפתמך בית ישראל, ברינה יתפאר שמך מלכנו, בכל דור ודור. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ. כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, שושבחה הלב וזמרה, עוז וממשלה, נצח גדולה גבורה, תהילה ותפארת, קדושה ומלכות, ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול בתשבחות, אל ההודעות אדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך ערכי העולמים. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועמד יברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי תכל בית ישראל. בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו יש מרבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי המאיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, יתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי קדושה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמיד בעלמה, ואמרו Amen.
Yesterday, rise. I'll make it short. Don't worry. I'm gonna stand forever. Yesterday we were talking about how special this Torah portion is, Parashat Emor, that stands alone. We're saying that the previous two Torah portions, very often they come together. They are Parashot Mechubarot. They are connected Torah portions. And the next two Torah portions are often read together. Acharei Mot and Kedoshim, they come together very often. And Be'ar Bechukotai, the next two Torah portions, very often they come together. More is always on its own. And the beloved rabbi said once that the reason for that is because more is about only yourself saying. Lemor is to say. And when we say alone, when we don't engage in dialogue, we remain alone. The beautiful thing about Baruch, the blessing that opens the gate toward the Shema, there is a call and response. There is conversation, there is dialogue. It's never on its own. And you always, for Baruch, need a minyan, need your community around you. Recognizing that in the diversity of our community, in the diversity of our dialogue, is that we found the unity of God. We're on page 226.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Le'olam va'ed.
ברוך אתה, אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, יוצר אור ובורא חושך. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of light and darkness, who makes peace, fashions all things. We're on page 228. המהיר לרצול הדרים, עליה ברחמים. המהיר לרצול הדרים, עליה ברחמים. ובטובו מחדש בכל יום תמיד מעשה בראשית. מה נבוא מעשיך אדוני כולם, וחוכמה עשית מלוא הארץ. קניינך, קניינך, כל חדש הציון תהיר, ונזכה כולנו אהבתנו, אדוני אלוהינו, חמלה גדולה ויתרה, חמלת עלינו. How deeply you have loved us, Adonai, our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion. ועינינו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah, focus our minds on your mitzvot. Unite our hearts in love and reverence for your name. Guide us in peace from the four corners of the earth, and lead us upright to our land. For you, O God, work wonders. You chose us, truly you drew us near to your great name, that we might acknowledge you, declaring you one in love. Praise be you, Adonai, who chooses your people Israel in love. Baruch ata Adonai, הבוחר בעמו ישראל, באהבה and le'ava, and to love. On page 232.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
We continue with B'ahavta on page 234. B'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom alevavecha V'shinantam nebanecha v'ribarta bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. We continue in English, middle of page 236. Adonai said to Moses as follows, "Speak to the Israelite people and instruct them to make for themselves fringes on the corners of their garments throughout the ages. Let them attach a cord of blue to the fringe at each corner. That shall be your fringe. Look at it and recall all the commandments of Adonai and observe them, so that you do not follow your heart and eyes in your lustful urge. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
אמת ביציב באור בחביבנו רב דל בטוב ביפה אבל עשה עלינו לעם בהת אמת לעולם מלכנו צור יעקב מגן אישנו לדור בדור הוא קיים ושמו קיים בכיסאו נחום מלכותו ממונתו לעד קיימת ודבריו חיים וקיימים לעלמים נחמדים לעד עולמי עולמים. Whoever humbles the proud raises the lowly, frees the imprisoned, redeems the afflicted, helps the oppressed, answering our people when we cry out. Praise to God Most High. Blessed is God and deserving of blessing. Great joy, Moshe, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices, their hearts, with joy. Nicha mocha ve'elim Adonai. Who is like you, O God? We're on page 240.
Yalai, 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 ay, ay, yalai, ay, ay, yalai, 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 ay, ay, yalai, ay, yalai, 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 ay, yalai,
Beslat Israel, uvdenu mecha Yehuda vehi Israel. Go'aleinu Adonai tzvaot shemo kedosh Israel. Baruch atah Adonai Goel Israel. On page 242. And as we enter the space of Tfilat Amidah, the center of our service, we of course follow along the words of our tradition. We recognize the many blessings that we have, that we ask for also in our lives. And we ask for our mouths, for our hearts to be open and to utter words of praise. We ask for the ability to find the words that we sometimes struggle to say. We ask for the courage to recognize, to verbalize things and words that we sometimes struggle to find. And ultimately, we ask to find our tefillah shebalev, the prayer of our heart. We're on page 242.
Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, Ofi Yagi Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה, רב להושיע, מוריד עצל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ברופא חולים, ומטיל אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, מנמנת לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה המתים.
דש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
כן, דמים אותו קראת הסכלום הזה בראשית. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני, צורי בגואלי. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. We are at the bottom of page 260.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. עושה
שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל to page 362 in order to commence the Torah service.
אין כמוך באלוהים, אדוני, ואין כמעשיך, מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
אחד אלוהינו, גדול אדוננו, קדוש שמו.
אחד אלוהינו, גדול אדוננו, קדוש שמו.
גדלו לאדוני איתי, ונרוממן שמו יחדיו. La 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 la.
מעוז.
לאדוני כבוד מעוז,
לאדוני כבוד שמו, לאדוני כבוד מעוז, לאדוני כבוד שמו. יאי, לי, לי. למויתם, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. אדוני יוס, למויתם, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. You may be seated. Shabbat Shalom. What the simcha is to celebrate Shabbat together. The simcha is to be in community, and with the simcha that we are going to be in a few more minutes going up to the Torah, Gabe and Val, to name their first of many daughters. No, their first daughter. My English not so good. I apologize. I have something. No. The beloved and wonderful. No. That's good. What's going on? That's good. That's good that we have some humor and some Shabbos conversation. You know, it reminds me the days in which we were only in Zoom, in which at the beginning we didn't even have Zoom, so we were just talking to the people we hope were in Zoom, in YouTube, not in Zoom. When Zoom became available during the pandemic, it was like a total change. It was such a difference, and now we have Zoom and in person, and we have people joining us in YouTube and on Facebook. So what a privilege, what a wonderful thing is to be in community. Now, shall we speak a little bit about the Torah portion? Say yes, great. Now, the name of the Torah portion? Emor. And the topics in the Torah portion? Come on. Number 1. That's number 3. That's good. Hagim, the holidays are a topic in the Torah portion. Absolutely. What else? Shabbat is holidays. Okay, but yes, like sacred convocations, we're going to call. Mikrei Kodesh. What else? If you are talking to me, you need to raise. That's toward the end of the Torah portion. That's correct. So that was a good catch, because actually it's not one of the main motifs of the Torah portion, but it's there at the end. So very good catch, Marianne. Right? So what else? Anything else in the Torah portion? Say the Kohanim. So let's talk about that for a moment. So in this Torah portion, we encounter all the laws that are given to the priest, the Kohanim. Now, the laws that are given to the Kohanim, the priest, are not the easiest, the nicest laws to follow. And the explanation that is not completely clear out of well, you could say because they are called to serve in a very specific, special position, therefore they need to be separate. They need to consecrate themselves in a level that not the rest of the people are going to consecrate themselves. And so until then, you can understand it, but then it gets a bit more complicated because right at the beginning, the Torah will tell us that the Kohanim they cannot go, for example, to funerals besides their direct family. And I think that the very interesting thing, besides the reasons for the laws, for the Kohanim, for the priest, that we might discuss in a different occasion, the very interesting question is how you sell to your children such an important commitment? Right? There's some interesting challenge here. If you are Father Cohen or Mom Cohen, and you need to tell your children, I know that all your friends can marry anyone, but you can't. Or I know that, and the laws for marriage are impossible there. And in the modern Israel, that creates lots of conflicts with the chief rabbinate when we don't have the priesthood as an institution at all. If you tell your children, yes, your friends can go to the funerals of their friends, and they can show up, but you can't. Now, the interesting question from my perspective, or for me this week, is how do you sell difficult deals to your children? How do you pass messages to your daughter that you believe are really, really, really important, and you want her, you want them to know, to follow? What do you do? Any idea? Then we'll see what the Torah portion says. I appreciate your silence, actually, but this time you can talk, actually. We're fine. No ideas? Do we have any parents in the room? Any idea of how to pass on important values? Jewish day school. You send them to Jewish day school. Okay, good. That's an approach, right? Like you send them. Oh, well, you know what? We're going to get back to you in a moment with that. That could be a part of the approach. Elaine, do you have a microphone here so the Zoomers can hear? You have to live your value. Well, that's a difficult deal. Come on. You need to walk the walk, not just. You need to set a good example. Okay. So we need to send them to the right places, or what, in your opinion, are the right places. You need to lead by example. Okay, of what they are supposed to do or what they are not supposed to do. Both. Okay, so you try to put them in a context in which they are surrounded by the right people. Okay, but you can't hold that forever, right? That's complicated. Any other idea? They are all possible ideas. I don't have an answer in my pocket to say, by the way, you were all wrong and I have the right answer here. Are you taking notes? She's my wife, right? Like, okay.
If you are a Kohen, like a male Kohen, and you want to make sure that your sons, in essence,
that's the vocabulary of the Torah. In a more pluralistic reading, you will say your sons and daughters, but yes, that's the speech of the Torah.
In this case,
that's the speech.
It's the son, and you want to make sure that your son understands what receiving that what's the word I'm looking for? Receives the concept of being a Kohen himself. I have seen the practice of the Kohanim go wash their hands and go before the Rona Kodesh, and next to them, wrapped in their talit with it over their heads, with their small sons.
Little children. So they're modeling. You're talking about modeling.
Modeling and then at the same time teaching what is the importance of because this is 1,000-year-old or more than 1,000-year-old tradition, and they are part of that linkage to that tradition. I mean, if you accept the concept of the Kohanim and the rebuilding of the next temple, and that they have to be blah, 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 blah.
So thank you very much, Elaine. We're going to stop it here for 1 second, and I'm trying to be more environmentally friendly, so that's why we are using the screens instead of printing every time that we teach a little class. So, you want to add something? Yes. And you are the last one before we get into this, otherwise people will be very unhappy with me.
I had this discussion with some very observant people. I really object to a Kohen with a physical deformity cannot serve in the temple. Could you talk about that a little bit?
I was totally going to avoid that. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So,
It's terrible.
so-
I really think that's
so-
terrible.
I,
What was the thing you said about if you follow the Torah letter by letter, you aren't following the Torah?
well, that's true, but okay. Thank you, friends. We're going to... That's what happens when you let people speak. Okay, well there's an entire, I'll address it very quickly and not very deeply, okay? I'm happy to discuss more about that. I really want to focus on something else, but it's a very important and good question, so I want to say something in that regard, and we can speak about that more deeply later. There's an entire set of laws that are related to the mindset of the Kohen and what the Kohen is supposed to be thinking about in a very specific moment, and it's the moment in which he's serving the Jewish people in Yom Kippur. And it's going name by name, saying the names of Jewish people. And the tradition has and by the way, and the context of why he cannot get married with this or that woman is for that. And so is the blemish. So the idea around all this dakuyot, all these specific comments around the purity or the mindset of the Kohen has to do with how I can't have three conversations. I'm sorry. Please help me out, Laila. I can't. I'm hearing you and I can't hear my thoughts. And the idea of the blemish is intrinsically related to that, to the focus on something else as opposed to self-focus. Do I like the idea? No, not one of my favorites. It has to do also with setting a model of perfection around the Kohen. And do I like models of perfection? Not really. It's almost a contradiction in our tradition. Like the idea around the Kohen is an oxymoron. It's kind of that's why it's such a deep topic. Because all the human models that we present, particularly when you go to our forefathers, are models of imperfection. Even circumcision is kind of imperfection. And then you have the Kohanim, with this idea of a human perfection that is not really achievable. And actually what I want to focus on, so it's a very good question, very deep, it has to do with how we follow models, and what are the models that we want to follow, and trying to create such an image for a Kohen. But the question is how we bring these Kohanim, those that are supposed to be doing the work of Kohanim, to do the work that they are supposed to do that's not so easy. It requires a huge commitment. How do I get my own children to refrain from sports in Shabbat? That's because there's something important that I want them to connect with. That's the real question for me right now. Right? How do I present a value or something that's really important to my children, and I want them to stick to that? And here's what the tradition offers. ויאמר אדוני אל משה, אמור אל הכהנים בני אהרון, ואמרת אליהם לנפש לא ידמה בעמו. Adonai said to Moses, speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron, and the entire discussion that we will have will be around the sons of Aaron. Why the Torah is saying the sons of Aaron? And say to them, none shall defile himself for any dead person among his kin, except for relatives, etc. Now, let's go down to Rashi. Down to Rashi is like a page and a half later. We're going to cut through.
We would, yeah.
You want to read? Go.
Oh, okay.
Go to Rashi. And if you have microphones, you want to participate in reading, we're going to go do a quick screen.
Say unto the priests, and thou shalt say unto them, say, and again, thou shalt say unto them. This repetition is intended to admonish the adults about their children also, that they should teach them to avoid defilement. Yevamot.
So what's the meaning of the word admonish there? What's Rashi saying?
Like, don't do that.
Who? Who is being warned there?
The adults.
The adults. It's not about the children, is saying Rashi. And then he offers as a nochacha, as a proof, the Talmud in Yevamot. Let's go to the Talmud in Yevamot. It's actually, the story that Rashi brings is in page 113b and continues in 114a. Who wants to read? Come on, friends. Do a quick study. You have a microphone?
I have microphone.
You have a microphone. Okay, Cindy, you go.
The Gemara relates a story. Rav Yitzhak bar Bisna lost the keys to the study hall, and therefore they could not come into the study hall from the public domain on Shabbat.
Okay, there's a law. One of the laws in Shabbat is that you cannot pass objects from private domain to public domain. Classic case is what happens from private domain into the public domain. What happens if a homeless person knocks at your door in Shabbat and says, and you are shomer mitzvot, you keep mitzvot like letter by letter in a very, let's say, ultra-Orthodox way. Can you offer food to that person? Can you take a dish out of your house? Legally, no. You can't. You cannot take an object from private domain into public domain. Now, why is that? What's the intention around that? Invite the homeless person in. No, offer a meal in your table instead of bringing the food out. That's the way to resolve the Shabbos problem. But in this case, the rabbis are talking about only transporting things. Like, what are you supposed to do with these keys that fell somewhere and cannot be taken from one place to the other?
It was impossible to open the synagogue, as they could not bring the key because it is prohibited to carry in the public domain. He came before Rabbi Pedat to ask what to do. Rabbi Pedat said to him, "Go and lead boys and girls and let them walk there where the keys were lost. And if they find the keys, they will bring them to you of their own accord, without you saying anything to them."
Why kids? Because they are not committed to the mitzvot. They haven't done they are not in the age of bar or bat mitzvah. They are not adults, so they can't transgress the law. So that's the suggestion. Make the kids make a transgression.
Very tricky. The Gemara comments, apparently Rabbi Pedat maintains that with regard to a minor who eats meat from unslaughtered animals or violates other prohibitions, the court is not commanded to prevent him from doing so. The Gemara comments, let us say that the following source supports his opinion. Person may not tell a child on Shabbat, bring me a key, or bring me my seal from the public domain. However, he may allow the child to detach plants and allow him to throw in the public domain. This shows that one need not be strict with a child who transgresses a prohibition, but one may not tell a child to transgress a prohibition.
So what's the proof that they are using? What's the explanation they are using in order to explain why the first rabbi is making this suggestion about sending the children to walk around and eventually find the keys? Well, it happens kind of by coincidence. They are minors, and they are saying when minors make transgressions, that's what we know from other laws, when minors make transgressions, when they make terrible mistakes, according to Jewish law, the court is not supposed to judge them, nor the parents. The parents are supposed to tell them, we usually, we don't eat that way, and you offer something else, but you're not supposed to be too judgmental. You're not supposed to put a court in front of that child. It doesn't work that way. As a matter of fact, the law will go and talk about what happens with children uprooting grass, which is prohibited in Shabbat. You say nothing. You just keep teaching them the laws of Shabbat, and you don't deal with the transgression. And that's the law. Well, yeah, but that's a later concept, right? It's a rabbinical convention that comes later, an area that is determined for people to be able to basically to work within the laws of Shabbat, and that fix for you the problem with the what? Correct, but I don't want to go in that direction. The problem, and by the way, and that doesn't solve the grass problem. Right? Like the idea that if the children will make transgressions, you're not supposed to judge them. You're not supposed to bring in front of a court. That's not how you teach them. So once again, what's the deal? What's happening here? And why the dagesh, why the emphasis is put in the parents? Let's go back to the previous Rashi. And let's see what's the distinction that Rashi makes, because when the Torah says the children of Pharaoh, who are the children of Pharaoh? Well, he has 4 kids, right? So, what? Correct. But he's talking about the Kohanim. So, and that's what Rashi will explain. We are not talking only about the 4 specific children that Aaron had, that by now 2 are dead. We are talking about all the Kohanim. Now, so the question is why in this verse the Torah is going back to Aaron? Why is saying the children of Aaron? What's the Torah trying to do? Tell Aaron that he's supposed to be a good teacher of his children, or maybe there are 2 things that are happening at the same time. One, that could be one of the things, so that might be a third one. One is the Torah telling that the responsibility is upon the parents. It's on the parents, it's not in the children. When you see your children making a transgression, you're just supposed to think about yourself for a moment and think about how you are going to keep modeling, how you're going just to keep showing what you believe is the right path. Number 1. And number 2, the Torah will say, Rashi, is going back to Aaron to say, look at what a beautiful heritage, what a beautiful legacy we have. Now, in Jewish tradition, Aaron is the ultimate hero. Aaron is the peacemaker. Aaron is the one that when he died, the entire people of Israel mourned. And what was Aaron's way? Rodef Shalom, says the Mishnah. He was a pursuer of peace. He was a deal maker with people. He used to engage in conversation from morning to evening. He wasn't lecturing people. He was busy making peace. So the Torah is saying, you just remind them, we come from an entire legacy, an entire heritage of peacemakers. We feel deeply connected to that. We link ourselves to something that is bigger than us. We link ourselves to a big idea, to a wonderful value, and then we put the modeling component on ourselves. Can we go down in the thing to... I'm going to make it shortcut once again. We're going to go to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Rashi, what he says in Hebrew, I brought the translation, but the word in Hebrew is not admonish, is le'asir. And the verse is le'asir gadol mifnei katan. So you will warn the adult for the behavior of the little one. Now, the Lubavitcher Rebbe says, we need someone on the microphone, come on. Otherwise I hear only my voice.
The above dictum, which constitutes a primary biblical source for the concept of education, also offers insight into the nature of education. The word used by the Talmud and Rashi, lehazir, to enjoin, also means to shine. Hence, the phrase to enjoin the elders regarding the youngsters also translates as to illuminate the elders regarding the youngsters. Education is not only an elder teaching a youngster, it is also an illumination for the educator.
So I want to tell you a story. 7.5 years ago, when I came to do interviews at TVT, I was being interviewed. I came from Singapore. I was being interviewed to possibly become the new rabbi in this congregation. And I met lots of adults that told me, we want a congregation for our children. We want to have religious education for our children. And I said to them, not because I knew on my own merit, because I knew from Torah. I said, well, we are lost. There's no way to have education for their children. There's no way to have something valuable that you want for someone else. There's no way that a rabbi will make your children Jewish or better, or that the school that you are sending them will put them in the right path. And if you think that that's going to happen that way, my friends, Torah is saying that we are all wrong, that doesn't work that way. The environment can help, but the only way to share a deep message, a deep value with our children is to believe that that value is valuable for me. If I am doing that, if I am showing up, if I am investing myself, you can tell your children forever that family is important. And then you don't show up. And then you don't engage with them. And then you ignore them. So family is not important. Because you believe is important. Who cares about what you believe? Who cares about what you are telling to your children? Show up. Be there. Do stuff. You want your children to know Torah? So study Torah. You can send them to the Jewish school. It's a great idea. I'm doing the same, right? But that's not enough. You want them to know Mishnah? Open a Mishnah. Become a student yourself of Mishnah. You want them to know Hebrew? Try to speak in Hebrew with them. Well, kind of good luck to you. But if there's something important to you, the idea that you believe that is important is just not enough. It's not good enough. The fact that you repeat it again and again and again doesn't make any difference. Your behavior matters. What you are modeling matters. And the only way to bring the Kohanim to follow, according to the pedagogy of the Torah, to follow this set of rules that is quite complicated, is to contextualize that, to link that to a huge and beautiful family heritage. You're saying, no, Aaron is your grandpa. It's not someone else. It's directly connected to you. And we are doing this. At some point, you might get there. But this is what I do. This is how I live my life. I think it's beautiful, and I feel deeply connected. Then you invite your family to join you. But always, always starts by us. Translated Rabbi Telushkin, the words of the Kotzker Rebbe, have them at the bottom. If you truly wish your children to study Torah, study it yourself in their presence. They will follow your example. Otherwise, they will not themselves study Torah. They will simply instruct their children to do so. So let's think about what's the Torah that we need to be studying. What are the things that we need to be doing? And let's make sure that we are shining, that we are projecting our values, not only saying them, but living them. Shabbat Shalom. Okay, we will get started with the reading of Parashat Emor, where Emor means to say.
Isn't Emor I will say?
We begin with chapter 24 of Leviticus. I'm not sure what page that is, but chapter 24, verse 1. Yamdu Yahamdu Tzidel Rivka bat Shmuel Valea, Lila Pesner, Ilana bat Abraham Sarah, Cindy Jacobson, and Yekasiel Gabriel Ben Baruch Halevi Vitzira Leah Nahuma, Steve Velasco, all past presidents of BT, and chanting Torah will be another past president, Mark Bilowitz. So setting an example for our future president, Maya Arom.
Baruch et Adonai havarach.
Baruch Adonai mevarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai havarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'yidber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Zav et bnei Yisrael kichu elecha shemen zayit zav katit lamor laner tamid mirutz lefonechem adu rachem oei yaro oto acharon me'arev ad boker לפני אדוני תמיד חוקת עולם לדורותיכם על המנורה התיכורה יערוך את הנאות לפני אדוני תמיד ולחתך הסולח אפית אותה שתים עשרה חלו שני עשרים יהיה החלל האחד ושמת אותם שתיים מערכות שאמרכם על השולחן הטהור לפני אדוני ונתת על המערכת לבונה זכר ויטל עליכם לאזכרה אישה לאדוני ביום השבת יחנו לפני אדוני תמיד מאת בני ישראל ברית עולם ויטל אחרון ולבנו ויעלהו במקום קודש כי קודש קדושים כולו מאיש אדוני העולם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nota b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
The second aliyah, we will be chapter 24, verse 10. Yamod, Yahamod, Bible Ben Shlomo, Felix Livitz. Chanting Torah will be Nitza Hennig.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai mevarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
ויצא בן אישה ישראלית והוא בן איש מצרי בתוך בני ישראל וינצו במחנה בן הישראלית ואיש הישראלי ויקוב בן האישה הישראלית את השם ויקלל ויביאו אותו אל משה ואת אמו שלומית בדברי למטי דן
ויניחוהו במשמר לפרוש להם על פי אדוני. וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור. הוצא את המקלל אל מחוץ אל המחנה, וסמכו את כל השמעים את ידיהם על ראשו, ורגמו אותו כל העדה. ואת בני ישראל תדבר לאמור, איש איש כי יקלל אלוהיו ונשא חטאו. וניקב שם אדוני מות יומת, רגום יגרמו בו. כל העדה כגר כאזרח בנקבו שם יומת.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
Asher Koach.
Well done.
For the third aliyah, Yamod, Yamod, Ari Arom ben Asher ve'Esther. Ari ben Asher ve'Esther, Ari Arom. Chanting Torah will be Fred Jacobson.
Baruch Adonai mevarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol chamim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Ve'ish ki yakeh kol nefesh adam mot yumat umachei nefesh behema yeshalamena nefesh tachat nafesh ve'ish ki yiten mun ba'amito kasher asa gain ya'aselo shever tachat shever ayin tachat ayin shein tachat shein kasher yitain mum be'adam kain yinatain bo.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Take a moment now to, before the maftir, we'll take a moment to acknowledge those that came out to the Torah, in honor of the Torah, our congregation, Shabbat, and the Creator of the world, the common denominator of all existence. We say, משברך אבותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה רבקה, רחל ולאה, הוא יברך את כל העולים בעולות לתורה. May the one who bless our ancestors will bless all those that came up to the Torah. May they merit from the Holy One blessing of protection, rescue from any trouble or distress, and from any illness, minor or serious. May God send blessing and success to all of them, to all of you, in all your endeavors together with all Israel. And let us say,
Amen.
we also take a moment to acknowledge those that are dealing with illness. Close it a little bit. Thank you. But we are not using it. Just cover it with my master. משברך אבותינו ואמותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב,
So רבקה, רחל ולאה, הוא יברך את החולים, may the one who bless our ancestors will bless those that are dealing, experiencing illness. And if you have a name that you like to share,
Marla Kaysen, Jonathan Kaysen.
הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא רחמים עליהם, להחלימם, לרפאתם, להחזיקם וישלח להם מהרה רפואה שלמה מן השמיים, רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף. May the blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send to all of them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say,
Amen.
to all of them, רפואה שלמה והחלמה מהירה. We'll now proceed with the maftir. And for the עליית המפטיר, כל בעלי השמחה,
Gabriel, Ben Asher ve'Esther, ve'Yael, Bat Refrain ve'Yosefina, Gabriel, and Valerie Aron.
you better bring her.
And chanting Torah will be our cantorial fellow, Gabrielle Newman, and maybe Maya. We will be in Leviticus chapter 24, verse 21.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai mevarach le'olam va'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן.
ומכה בהמה ישלמנה, ומכה אדם יומת. משפט אדם, אדוני לכם, כאזרח, אדוני, יהיה כי אני אדוני אלוהיכם. וידבר משה אל בני ישראל, ויוציאו את המקלל אל מחוץ למחנה, וירגמו אותו אובן, ובני ישראל עשו כאשר ציווה אדוני את משה.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן.
For a little bit. Closer, come on. They're all vaccinated, right? So, I do have a microphone.
No.
They will need a microphone at some
Don't.
point. We'll take care of that. So there's a beautiful story in Shir Hashirim Rabbah. It says, when Israel stood at Sinai to receive the Torah, according to our tradition, in a few more days, in a few more weeks, the Holy One said, present to me good guarantors. Okay, the too scared plus the big open eyes are making my life very difficult right now. Let's keep it together, Maya. Come on, focus back here. Okay. Present me with good guarantors that they will keep my Torah, and then I shall give it to you. They said, our ancestors, going back to our Torah portion, to our discussion, Aaron should be good enough to guard your Torah, to be your guarantors. The Holy One said, your ancestors are not sufficient guarantors. Bring me better guarantors, and I shall give you the Torah. They said, ruler of the universe, our prophets Our prophets are our guarantors. God said to them, the prophets are not sufficient guarantors. Bring me better guarantors, and I shall give you the Torah. They said, our children will be your guarantors. The Holy One said, they are certainly good guarantors. For their sake, I shall give you the Torah. We were speaking just a few minutes ago about the importance of walking the walk, of living up to what we want our children to become. And we don't have manuals on how to do good parenting. Well, there might be some here and there, some books, but they sometimes say opposite things. And a big part of the deal is just try to manage and try to sleep from time to time. But I think that the other component has to do with the ability to be present and to have your heart open to understand the existence of a different entity. I have had the privilege to accompany you in several times of your life already. And of the many occasions I have witnessed or I have had the privilege to be with you, this is the best. Because this is the expression of your love, your coming together, and your creativity. Your ability to become co-creators in a world that is constantly being recreated. And a part of the knowledge that all parents need to understand at some point, not that I know it, constantly work on that, is to understand the existence of an entity that is its own Tao, its own entity. You have a daughter, and you will need to be able to embrace her all the time, but at the same time, step back. And that's the dance. And thinking about this time of the year, tonight we'll celebrate, some of us, Pesach Sheni. There's a second Passover. And in 4 more days, we have, who say Lag BaOmer? Lag BaOmer. We have Lag BaOmer. And the tradition teaches us that the reason we have a Pesach Sheni is to teach that to all of us that things are never lost. That there's always space to rectify. If you were in a journey, if you were far away, if you missed an opportunity, if you didn't show up in the right time, if something happened to you, if you were ritually impure, one of the reasons to refrain from celebrating Pesach in the real time, there are other opportunities. We need to allow ourselves to embrace and to find other opportunities in our lives, particularly in parenthood, because you will miss so many times. But the idea is that you don't quit. You try again. And that's the symbol of Pesach Sheni. You never quit, but you try again. Lag BaOmer, Hasidic tradition teaches that Lag BaOmer actually is the first time in the journey while the children of Israel were in the desert, the first time in many, many days that they didn't look back. It doesn't mean that they, after that, didn't look back again. It means that they had the ability for one day to look forward. And so we celebrate in our lives, what was the day in which the children of Israel made it to the promised land? Who knows, right? But we do know that there was one day in which they didn't look back. Because we celebrate small achievements, little things that could be ignored, but for us are really important because they make a whole world of a difference. So we will introduce your beloved daughter into the tradition of Israel, into the covenant of our people, and we will ask you to read a little bit. It's written Baal and gave. That's you. Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehachnisah b'vrito shel Avraham Avinu v'Sarah imenu.
Blessed by the presence who sanctify.
Sanctity fills
my
our
God.
lives.
We bring our
Our
daughter into the covenant of Abraham our father and Sarah our mother.
Amen. But you can say, and we say, Amen. כשם שמכניסים אותה לברית, היא תיכנס לתורה, לחופה ולמעשים טובים. We heard that as she enters, right. I shall say like good deeds, and you were like, yes. I'm totally on for the good, correct. So we hope that you have the privilege to witness her life, to accompany her over her life, and to bring her to good deeds, to mitzvot, to eventually, in a few more years, be standing in this same bima, celebrating her bat mitzvah, and to accompany her, to walk with her into the chuppah, into the canopy of sacred marriage. And we say now,
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al kiddush hachayim.
Kiddush hachayim, and
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You hallow us with your mitzvot and command us to sanctify our life.
May we lead our daughter in the way of righteousness. Teach us to guide and instruct her, that she may grow up to be loyal to Judaism and a worthy member of the Jewish community.
Of the word, and we'll say, we can put it say 1 second. Say, Misheverach, Aboteinu, Beimotenu, may the one who bless our mothers, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, Miriam, and Deborah, the prophetesses, Abigail and Esther, the queen, bless this lovely child, and let her be known in the people of Israel, by the people of Israel. Shema Ikara B'Israel, Maya, the daughter of Gabriel Yael. You can say, Ooh, Mazal Tov.
Mazal Tov!
You totally miss it. Ikara Shema B'Israel, Maya Bat Gabriel Yael. Now go.
Mazal Tov!
In Mazal Tov and in a blessed hour, B'Sha'at Tova, may she grow up in health and peace. May the source of all creation give her and to her parents the joy of seeing. Oh my God, she has a wonderful smile. It's impossible to speak to this lady. Seeing her happily partner, the mother of children, full of honor and joy in her old age. And let us say,
Amen.
And we say also, we take a moment to recognize that you deliver a baby. We say, Mishaberach Abotenu, Beimotenu, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. We Yavarech et Yael, Bad, Ephron, and Josephina. Kadosh Baruch Hu Yematzech, Beochekes, Beorech Ruach, Beometzlef, Be'asher Alayich Mirrucho, Lerapech, Berefua Shlema, Refuat HaNefesh, Berefuat HaGuf, in Kol Cholei Amo Yisrael, B'Noman Amen. May you be healthy. Now, we'll take a moment also to share a Mishaberach from you. You can stay here. We want to see Maya.
Oh yeah, we want to see Maya too. So usually, mom and dad, but mostly mom, have a thorough plan and an explanation for everything. But in this case, we chose the name. So I'm sorry, I'm speaking to you, Maya. In this case, we chose your name because it sounded beautiful and like a beautiful name that would fit you well. In addition, we also like the fact that Maya, at least to our knowledge, is related to the root word mayim, which means water, or ma'ayan, which means spring in Hebrew. And so we like the symbology there. And so if you'll allow me, Maya, I'm going to take this analogy as far as it goes. So may you appreciate that our love for you is vast, limitless, unconditional, and deep like the ocean. May your wonder, passion, and curiosity for life be equally deep, like said ocean. May you fill every space you enter, yes, with your presence, with loving kindness, just as water fills a cup.
Like waters and all living things, may you appreciate your interconnection to the world and to all of Hashem, to God's creatures, and realize that we're all created in His image. May you feel grounded in your diverse background, your heritage, your culture, your language, and your diverse family, just like water feeds the roots of a tree. Let's keep going here. May you respond to life's challenges gracefully, how water skirts around a rock in its path. And just like a tiny stream can wear away its stone like the Grand Canyon, may you apply your patience and focus and persistence to all you do. May you find your way in Judaism, embracing what brings you meaning and spirituality. May you stay calm in stormy waters, but sometimes, just like water roaring in a waterfall, you get angry at mommy and daddy and scream at the top of your lungs, usually when you're hungry or have a poopy diaper. May you use that roaring spirit, your neshama, with good intention, kavanah, and apply yourself to social justice, environmental justice, women's rights, and making the world a better place, repairing the world, tikkun olam. That's about as far as I can take this analogy. She's still paying attention, so that's a good thing. And that is all. Thank you all for coming. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We invite now your family to get closer. Mom, brothers, two moms are here. Who is here from the family? Val's and Gay's family, get closer. Maya's family. You are Maya's family now. All of you, you are Maya's family. We're going to open the tally. We're going to cover you. Get closer to each other. Take this fabric. Perfect. Shawl. This side. I need this side. We'll do a blessing and take the tally. Hit me with this. Yeah, great. Help me and put it over their heads. And this is the symbol of the Jewish home. Grandma, get here. Come there. This is the symbol of the Jewish home. And it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a huge family. It takes tons of love, tons of patience. And we pray for your environment to be a supportive environment, an environment that is always present, that is always modeling with their presence, showing up, giving love to this incredibly beautiful creature that is sitting here with so much patience. And so I would address the blessing that our tradition has addressed to our children, granted to our children for thousands of years. And I will say it in behalf of the village. We'll say, Yasimech Elohim Sarah. She's a baby. Okay. Yasimech Elohim Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. May God inspire you to be like the mothers of the people of Israel. Adonai, Beish Melech, may God bless you and protect you. Yael Adonai Palach, Elaich Beichunech. May God's light shine upon you, and may God be gracious to you. Isa Adonai, Panav Elaich, Ve'asim Lach, Shalom. May you find within you always God's presence. May you find wholeness. And a battle very soon, or whatever mommy can give you, and may God gives you peace. שהחיינו וקימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. You can bless and hug your family.
Isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful? Isn't she precious? Less than 1 minute old. I never thought through love we'd be making one
Please rise. בסוד התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה.
שלושה דברים, על
שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. It's a tree of life for those who hold fast to it. The Tomcheya, those that really engage in its study, they find joy, they find simcha. Shiveinu Adonai Elecha Benashuva, return us to you, God, and we will return. Renew our days as often days of old. We're on page 588, and we acknowledge that it is on us that all paths in our lives start from within our hearts. Be'ashevota el levavecha. Be'ashevota.
Be'ashevota
El levavecha.
el levavecha
Ki Adonai.
ki Adonai
hu ha'Elohim. Be'ashevota.
Be'ashevota
El levavecha.
el levavecha
Ki Adonai.
ki Adonai
hu ha'Elohim.
hu ha'Elohim be'emai be'haya Adonai melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
At this point of our service, we take a moment to acknowledge mourners. We think of those during the first 7 days of mourning Shiva, during the first 30 days of mourning Shloshim, and those during the cycle of the first year of mourning. If you have a yahrzeit this week, the anniversary of someone's passing by this time of the year in years past, please rise. Zach, do we have any names coming from Zoom? No names. You can support our fellows who are standing or sitting, joining us with your voices or your hearts. On page 598 for Mourners Kaddish Avelim. יתגדל ויתקדש שם רבה,
Amen.
בעלמה דברה חילותה, וימליך מלכותה. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, באמרו אמן.
אמן.
יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ועולמיה יתברך. וישתבח בהתפאר, בהתרומם, בהתנשא, בהתהדה, בהתעלה, בהתהלל, שמי קודשה.
בריחו.
לעילה, בין כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירם בעלמה, באמרו אמן. יש לה מרבה מן שמיה, וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, באמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, ועושה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, באמרו אמן. May the memories of your dear ones be always a blessing in your life. Yeh Zichram Baruch. You may be seated. Well, I'm so glad that we have welcomed our newest member to TVT. Now she's busy drinking with grandma. Think about what a blessing, right? To be busy drinking with your grandmother. Like maybe when she's 21 years old, we keep saying the same thing about her. What? You go by Savta? I don't know what that means. Well, I'll try to figure that out. Okay, good.
I assume it means grandmother.
Okay. No, when I grew up in Argentina, everybody went by Nona. They were all Italians in my neighborhood. So there was no abuela in the neighborhood. They were all Nonas. So Sabta, it's great to have you here. The two Sabtas are here. How do you say grandmother in Pinoy? Dola?
Lola.
Dola.
Lola.
L-O-L-A. Lola. That's my second word in Filipino, in Pinoy. Okay, so just one announcement. Next week we will be celebrating the end of the year in Havaya. We are very grateful that our religious school had the chance to go the entire year through almost uneventfully. That in COVID time is quite of a blessing. No outbreaks or anything or many letters that we need to send to the parents. So we are grateful that we had the opportunity to gather again, and we will be celebrating that next Shabbat. And on June 4th, Shavuot, my friends, we'll have a wonderful Shavuot party here at TBT and a wonderful celebration of the holiday of Shavuot. We'll be reading Torah, studying Torah, and engaging in Torah. That will be wonderful. We are on page 625 to conclude our service. Adon Olam. Please rise.
Adon Olam Hashem Alach B'terem kol Yetzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa B'chefso kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Acharei Kichlot Adon Levado Yimloch Torah V'hu Hayah V'hu Ohev V'hu Yiyeh B'tikvah V'hu Yiyeh B'tikvah V'hu echad ve'en sheni להמשילו להפרידה ולי ראשית ולי תחתית ולא העוז והמזרח ולא העוז והמזרח והוא אלי וחי גואלי ותוחמי ונצרה והוא ניסי ומנוסי ונתקוסי ביום אקרא ונתקוסי ביום אקרא ויבוא עבדי ברוכי ועת תשב מהעירה ואם ברוכי כביעתי אדוני לי ולא יירא אדוני לי ולא יירא. אדוני עוז לעמיו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. שבת שלום everyone, שבת שלום ומבורך.